Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Tae Kim from Sukmyong Women's University. Today, together with Professor Young-Min Lee, I will present our study on how pre-retirement managerial career experience affects reemployment and job quality among middle-aged and older workers in Korea using a Heckman sample selection approach. Here is the roadmap. I will move through 5 steps: the introduction and our core question, the theoretical background, the data and method, the findings, and finally the conclusion and what it means for policy. Let's begin with the introduction. Here is the question that drives this study: is managerial experience just a past status, or is it a form of career capital in later life labor markets? The puzzle starts with a simple gap. In Korea, the statutory retirement age is 60, but the average actual retirement age is only 52.9. As the chart shows, it is about 55 for men and 51 for women. This means that statutory retirement and actual retirement have become decoupled. Experienced managers often leave stable internal labor markets, only to re-enter segmented, lower-quality jobs. Yet we still know little about whether their managerial experience carries over as career capital in these secondary labor markets. Let me set up why this matters. Korea is aging faster than any other OECD country, with a wide gap between the statutory retirement age and when people actually leave their main jobs. This gap is what we call the decoupling of statutory and actual retirement ages. Many workers leave their main job before 60 and have to re-enter the labor market later in life. So reemployment is both a personal livelihood issue and a national policy concern. But here is the key point: post-retirement jobs are often lower in quality, temporary, low-paid, or unstable, and yet policy still fixates on the reemployment rate, not the quality of reemployment. This leads to our research aim. We ask whether pre-retirement managerial career experience affects 2 things. First, the likelihood of reemployment, and second, the quality of the jobs people get afterward, measured by post-reemployment wages, employment instability, and overall job dissatisfaction, using the 9th and 10th waves of the Korean longitudinal study of aging, KLUSA. Our contribution is this: managerial experience does not significantly raise the probability of reemployment, but it is clearly linked to better job quality, higher wages, more stability, and lower dissatisfaction. Once we account for selection, managerial experience emerges as quality-enhancing career capital, not just a gateway into a job. These ideas become 5 research questions. RQ1 asks whether managerial experience affects the probability of reemployment. RQ2 through RQ4 ask whether it affects post-reemployment wages, employment stability, and overall job satisfaction. And RQ5 asks whether the estimated effect changes once we correct for sample selection bias. Notice that the design deliberately separates getting a job from the quality of that job. Now, the theoretical background. 2 sets of forces pull in opposite directions. On the positive side, career capital theory says managerial roles build knowing how, knowing why, and knowing whom an edge in transitions. Human capital theory adds that leadership, coordination, and problem solving are transferable and keep paying off after the main job. But there are counter forces. Signaling theory suggests former managers may be seen as expensive, or as having weak hands-on skills. And labor market segmentation theory says experience from the primary market does not always transfer to the secondary market. So managerial experience may help job quality even if it does not help with getting hired, and that tension is exactly what our hypotheses test. Next, the data and method. We use the 9th and 10th waves of KLUSA, a national longitudinal survey. The sample is built in steps. From 5,562 wave 10 respondents, we keep 1,024 with valid pre-retirement job position data, then 701 after removing missing controls, reaching a final sample of 673, of whom 532 are reemployed and 141 are not. The crucial point is that wage, stability, and satisfaction are observed only for the 532 re-employed, and that is the source of selection bias. Our key variable is managerial experience, coded 0 for rank and file and 1 for section leader up to executive. We use a Heckman two-step model, first a probit for who becomes re-employed, then outcome equations on the re-employed that correct for unobserved selection, run in R. Now, the findings. First, why selection matters. Compare Oles and Heckman. For log wages, the managerial coefficient rises from 0.29 to 0.32. For employment instability, it roughly doubles from -0.14 to -0.27, meaning more stable jobs. And for dissatisfaction, it moves from only marginal to clearly significant. So once we correct for selection, the managerial premium gets stronger, especially for the non-wage quality outcomes. The lesson is simple: if you look only at the re-employed and ignore selection, you understate the premium. Here are the full Heckman estimates. Look at the top row. Managerial experience is not significant in the selection equation, so H1 on re-employment itself is not supported. Entry is driven instead by location and health. But across the three quality outcomes, managerial experience is significant and in the better direction every time, about 38% higher wages, lower instability, and lower dissatisfaction. So H2, H3, and H4 are all supported. And H5 is supported too, because correcting for selection sharpens these effects. In one sentence, managerial experience barely opens the door, but it clearly improves the room you end up in. Let me conclude. 3 contributions. We shift the lens from re-employment status to re-employment quality. We show managerial experience plays a differentiated role, weak on entry, strong on quality, and we show that ignoring selection understates that premium. For policy, this means we should treat job quality, wage, stability, satisfaction as a core outcome, not just the re-employment rate. Offer career-sensitive transitions for ex-managers, such as advisory and mentoring roles and phased retirement, and strengthen continued employment systems amid retirement age decoupling. We are honest about the limits, only 2 waves, a binary measure, and a weak exclusion restriction, so we read Heckman as a careful correction, not final proof. Next, we will use longer panels and richer career histories. To sum up, managerial experience is less a gateway into re-employment than a driver of its quality. Thank you very much for your attention. I would be very glad to take your questions, and you are welcome to reach me by email.